I have a trucker story from my extended family. My uncle used to drive a lot and he always came back with the most weirdest stories ever. While every family member knew his stories, there was one particular story he told and warned about, even to me when I was 6 or so. Once, due to a contract, he had to drive to Chile. He was sharing about the roads there and how it was decent. Personally, I made the way myself later in life and it was beautiful. Usually, when he was done, he would spend a few bucks on booze. But this time, due to a family gathering, he wanted to come back as soon as possible. So instead of drinking in some bar, he decided to sleep a bit along the Atacama Desert. Well, since it was a desert, he had parked his way outside the road and a few miles before the next village. He was sleeping, but woke up a few moments later to someone singing. He was confused as he thought it was the radio, but the radio was not on. Then the singing stopped. All of a sudden, he heard a woman's cry for help. His instincts kicked in and he immediately got up to help. He then started the engine and turned on the lights, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone. He rolled down the window and yelled if there was anyone there. It was nothing, just plain silence. That's when he thought of just driving away as soon as possible. However, before moving off, he caught a movement in the corner of his eye. As he turned to look, he saw a woman in the far distance. He could not see her face properly as it was pitch black. He freaked out and drove away instantly, not stopping till he reached home. Whenever he recalled the story, his face would turn pale. Even my grandmother commented how he was usually a very jolly guy, but whatever happened in the Atacama Desert totally freaked him out. Moral of the story is to never stay during night in the desert alone. I used to drive between San Francisco to Cheyenne many times. It's usually about 16 to 20 hours of driving, depending on the weather. One night, as I was driving along my usual route, my truck started making this odd grinding noise. It sounded as if I'd run something over and something got stuck. It's about 2 a.m. in the morning, and thankfully, I managed to find a decently lit rest stop and pulled over. There were no other vehicles in sight. Soon, I woke my buddy up who had been sleeping the whole time. I started to explain to my buddy about the noise, after which we both made our way out of the vehicle to inspect the source of the noise. As we were about to look underneath the truck, we started to hear what it sounded like a child crying. The hairs on my arms started to raise. Initially, we were against the idea of checking out the child. However, we soon switched our minds as we heard frequent stories about child kidnappings and traffickings around the area. We grabbed our flashlights and made our way towards the bathrooms since that was where the noise was coming from. As we got closer, we realized it was coming from the woman's bathroom. It was a low, dull, sobbing noise, and we were prepared for the worst. As I opened the door, I was expecting to see someone brutally beaten or worse, no one at all. We turned the lights on and there was no one in sight. We checked each stall just to make sure, but there was nobody. The noise still echoed around us. Was it a hidden camera? Was it a speaker? What the fuck was going on? Was basically what was running through my mind. My buddy then saw a small window and the instant he opened it, the noise ceased. We stood there in silence trying to figure out what was going on when all of a sudden the window slammed shut on its own and the crying started again. My adrenaline instantly shot up and we dashed out of there in seconds. As we were running towards the truck, we could still hear the crying noise behind us. After driving away for about 20 minutes, I pulled over to another rest stop some few hundred meters away to compose ourselves and also to inspect the grinding noise which was still persistent. As we got out and checked underneath the truck, we saw some sort of reddish silver metal piece stuck underneath. Using the limited tools we had, we tried taking it out, but to no avail. A few days later, I took the truck to a buddy of mine who was a mechanic. After inspecting, he told me that the piece of scrap metal that was stuck came from a kid's bicycle. I then started to wonder if I'd driven over a kid's bicycle. I knew deep inside that I did not drive over anything. I have no idea if the crime was related to the metal piece, but what happened that night was one of those moments for me that I'll never forget. My brother was a truck driver in the 90s, early 2000s. He just told me this story a few months ago. He was driving through Pennsylvania on his way back to New Jersey. He pulled over to the side of the road behind two other trailers. In the early morning, he heard someone bang on his right door. He quickly jumped from the sleeping compartment and grabbed his bat. As he looked out the window, there was no one there. A few seconds later, there was another bang on the left side. Freaked out, he looked out the window on the other side, but there was no one there as well. Only eerie silence. He was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on when seconds later, there was banging on both doors simultaneously. He said the banging was so loud and heavy, the truck was shaking violently. After opening up both curtains, he saw that there was no one outside there. Instantly, he jumped back into his driver's seat and started the truck. While doing so, he saw the two other trucks of him do the same thing. He told me that as if they had all experienced the same thing.